Brexit and fish go together as well fish and chips. Although probably in the exact opposite way. While fish and chips are probably a good combo to have, Brexit and fish don't really go well together at all. As we've always discussed right from the very beginning, because we were in a common market and had a common fisheries policy, this really benefited UK fishermen. But of course, it wasn't 100% perfect. And unfortunately, as we have said many times, Nigel Farage decided that this was going to be the champion cause he was going to take up. And of course, after Brexit, he abandoned fishermen very quickly indeed. After all, he made a lot of the promises that leaving the European Union, leaving the common fisheries policy was going to be an amazing step for fishermen all over the UK, that we would reclaim all these waters. But if anything, it has been far from that. Instead, fishermen have had to reduce their catches, not because of the common agricultural fisheries policy, but because they literally cannot sell the amount of fish that they catch. And if they do sell that, well, they've got to go through some incredibly complex and annoying paperwork to actually be able to send fish over to the EU, which is the main buyer of UK fishermen. We always stress this when we talk about fish. Even though the UK is an island, we do not actually eat fish. In fact, you can actually track the fall of that since World War One. Our fish consumption has drastically fallen, especially so over the recent past 4 decades. So, where has this left the UK fishing industry? And more importantly, what about the Scottish salmon industry? Because they have had a very big blow to their industry at the moment. So, before we go learning more about what's going on there, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club down below. And like I say, thank you to everyone who does support the channel that way. Even if you do, just click the like and share button. Like I say, thank you very much to all the help and support you do show the channel. So, what's happened with the salmon industry? Well, shockingly enough, back in September of 2021, the government, or at least in this case, DEFRA, actually showed some initiative. Instead of actually making the paperwork, physical, which is really burdensome, because we've discussed this before, that this amount of paperwork is like that thick. It is one thick boy that you've got to fill out, and you've got to have every single, T crossed and I dotted. If not, your entire shipment has to go back, or you have to be on call to be able to deal with maybe one missed signature on that paperwork. So it can be incredibly expensive just to do that, and a lot of time taken up in that. So what did the government actually do in this case that was, well, shockingly good? It decided that it was going to digitize this paperwork. And from what we could tell, this actually seemed to work. The scheme, or at least this trial scheme, was in place for 2 years, and it saved particularly the salmon industry over £3 million in paperwork that it didn't have to fill out, and was actually proving to be a somewhat successful scheme. But of course, what happens when you've got a shockingly successful scheme and a government that doesn't really have a plan? Well, this scheme came to an end. And what has replaced it? Absolutely nothing. So all these salmon farmers who have gotten into this digital system that has benefited them to the tune of over £3 million, they've now got to spend time and effort on filling out this paperwork, filling out all the costs. They are back to square one. So this has been a huge hit to the salmon industry. As we said, there's no replacement coming in. But DEFRA, the organization behind this whole scheme, our Department for Food and Rural Affairs, has come out and said, "Oh, this was always the plan. This was just phase one. This was just phase one. Don't worry, phase two is going to be rolling out soon." To which the salmon industry said, "Okay, when's phase two rolling out?" To which DEFRA replied, "Don't worry, it's going to be soon." And the salmon industry said, "Okay, but when is soon?" To which DEFRA replies, "Soon." And this has led a lot of industry officials to say there's nothing going to be done because they know there's a general election coming up. So there's no point in a way them doing anything to actually try and maybe make this system happen or make it work so that the salmon industry, which is an incredibly important part of especially UK exports, because where does all this salmon go? Well, the vast majority of the catch does not go to the UK. It goes to Norway, it goes to Sweden, it goes to Denmark, it goes to Europe. So this is going to be crippling to the salmon industry. Why? Because there was no replacement for a digital scheme about paperwork, which was shown to be working. That was actually working. They actually had something that was working regarding Brexit. And I know that's kind of shocking because even I'm surprised myself that the government actually came up with a scheme to help businesses with Brexit. Imagine my shock that it was actually working. And then, even after it had been shown to work, they cancel it with no warning. That was the other thing that happened as well in this case. There was no warning that this scheme was about to end. All the fishermen just got a notice. Hey, end of this month, that scheme for digitizing of paperwork, that's coming to an end. I really do pity the fishermen in the UK. I really, really do. They were taken for an absolute ride. They really, really were. And to be honest, they should have really known better. And I warn now the people who are deciding that they're going to throw their lot in with like Farage and the whole banking thing that he's got going on at the moment, his new crusade that he's decided this is the fight he's going to do. Um, yeah, history has shown that once you are no longer useful to Farage, he will drop you like a stone. So beware, because the fishermen know all too well that Farage really was not their friend. So, for all those getting into Nigel Farage and his new banking grift, or at least that's what we'll call it at the moment, um, his crusade against woke banks, be careful because it's not like Farage has spoken up in support of the fishermen since 2016. If anything, he has done nothing to support them, nothing to speak up in their favor, and done absolutely, you know, which he was doing nothing before. To be honest, they should have realized that. But, uh, you know, they have my sympathies. And a couple of fishermen have always said it in the past that they were far, far better off in the common fisheries policy in the EU than they were outside it. And it was because we were, heavily covering this, it was easily the quickest industry to actually turn around and say, actually, this Brexit's not going as well as we wanted. So, as always, we'll keep an eye on the fish, as always. But like I say, they've gotten into a situation where it's not good for them. They can't export as well as they used to. And if they do catch it, well, the British public don't really eat fish, especially in the amounts that they would catch to make them profitable. If they do want to be profitable, well, they've got to export. The problem, if you want to export, well, you've got a lot of red tape to fight that you never used to have to before. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, we'll see you all next time.